Imagine your 15-year-old daughter crying on the phone, panicked and cornered by a group of church women you barely recognize, screaming at her for not playing big sister to her dead father's affair babies. That's what happened to me last weekend. But what my ex-mother-in-law didn't know was that I kept receipts. And I used them to burn every lie she ever told right in front of her precious congregation. If you've ever dreamed of putting someone in their place after they messed with your kids, this one's for you. Hit that like button, subscribe for more jaw-dropping Reddit revenge, and buckle in, because this story is as emotional as it is satisfying. After 20 years of marriage and 2 beautiful daughters, I thought I understood pain. But nothing prepared me for what happened after my husband died. He passed away in an accident last year, suddenly and without warning. But that wasn't the hardest part. The hardest part was learning the truth. He died while we were in the middle of a bitter divorce. Why? Because he had cheated. Not once. Not by accident. No, he had a full-blown affair that resulted in 2 sons with another woman. A woman who also died in that same tragic accident. So now, suddenly, I was left picking up the pieces, not just of my own broken heart, but of our daughters, who had to live with the knowledge that their father betrayed our family and left behind 2 children they never asked for. You'd think that would be enough drama for one lifetime. But no. His parents, my ex-in-laws, turned full-blown delusional. They weren't grieving. They were plotting. First, they tried to move in with us, saying it was God's will that we stick together. Then they tried to gain custody of my daughters. As if tearing this family apart wasn't enough, they now wanted to control it completely. It was court, therapy, and constant emotional whiplash. But nothing compared to what happened last weekend at our local farmer's market. It was supposed to be a sweet day. My youngest had just turned 15, and instead of throwing a big party that weekend, I gave her a budget and let her loose at the market to pick out whatever she wanted. Sweets, chocolate, handmade gifts, the works. An hour in, I got the call. Her voice was shaky. She was crying. "Mom, these women won't leave me alone. They're saying horrible things." I froze. Then I ran. By the time I found her, with my eldest daughter at my side, 6 older women had surrounded her like vultures. They were shouting at her for being unchristian, for not loving her baby brothers, and for refusing to speak to her grandparents. Let me make something clear. My daughters discovered their father's affair. They were the ones who accidentally found the texts. They carried the guilt. And these women, strangers to them, were blaming them for trauma that wasn't theirs to begin with. I stepped between them, shaking with fury. Enough. My voice cut through the noise like a blade. I told my eldest to pay for her sister's things and go to the car. The women tried to argue, tried to shame me. One even had the audacity to call me a disobedient Christian wife. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't curse. But I told them, word for word, if you don't back away from my daughter, the next place you'll be standing is in front of a judge. Eventually, security escorted all of us out. They followed me to the car, but I didn't look back. I had already decided something that would change everything. Later that night, when the girls were asleep, I reached out to an old friend from the church my ex-in-laws attend. He was always level-headed, and I needed to understand what had just happened. He told me everything. My ex-mother-in-law had posted a massive sob story on the church's private Facebook group. She painted herself as a broken grandmother, abandoned and penniless. Claimed her only son was taken from her by a cruel, vengeful woman, and that his children now hated her. She even lied about the affair, said the other woman was our surrogate, and I rejected the children because they were boys. I couldn't breathe. Not from shock, but from rage. They accused my daughters of hating babies. They accused me of selfishness and cruelty. And the church? They were lapping it up. At least, some of them. Because here's the thing. That church might be backwards on a lot of issues, but there's one thing they take seriously: cheating. It doesn't matter who you are, if you cheat, you're out. And that's when I knew exactly what I had to do. I was off work the next day. I didn't waste a second. I went to the print shop with a folder full of evidence. Screenshots, emails, texts, pictures. Some of it was from the divorce proceedings. Some of it was from the aftermath. I printed everything in high-quality, glossy paper. Paid extra. Then I went home and spent the rest of the day crafting personalized hymn book binders, the kind that churchgoers would mistake for song packets. On the cover, the church's colors. On the inside cover, a photo of my ex-husband passionately kissing his mistress in our living room. Underneath, in bold font, the real love story of ex's name and mistress's name, not sponsored by the Holy Spirit. Page after page detailed the lies. His texts, his confessions, emails where his parents encouraged the cheating, messages where they bullied my daughters, one where they even blamed my girls for their father's death just 2 days after he died. I made a dozen copies. Then, I went to church. There's a desk in the back where people leave extra hymn books for others to borrow. No one checks them. I left the binders right there, quietly, calmly, like communion wafers of truth. By that evening, the church Facebook group was on fire. People were horrified, furious. The affair was undeniable. The names they called my ex and his mistress. Let's just say, even the pastor had to jump in and remind people to keep it godly. As for my ex-in-laws, the tides turned. The church elders condemned them for lying, for harassing children, for manipulating the truth to gain sympathy. They were shunned. My ex-mother-in-law posted one last bitter rant about how no one cares for the elderly and how her great son would have taken care of her if he were alive. What she didn't say was that I was the breadwinner, that everything she had was thanks to the woman she smeared. Me. Revenge doesn't always look like screaming or slamming doors. Sometimes it's printed on high-gloss paper and slipped between the pages of a hymn book. Sometimes justice sings louder than any sermon. If this story gave you chills, smash that like button and tell me in the comments, what would you have done if someone attacked your child like that? And for more deeply satisfying revenge stories, don't forget to subscribe. Because sometimes, the best karma needs a little push.